Awesome. So let's go ahead and get started. Well, thank you, Brian, for that amazing intro. It was very enlightening to see how machines are going to take over. And so now it falls on to us to help deploy the tools that are going to make this happen. So it's super exciting in a terrifying way. No, I'm kidding. I think this is an amazing opportunity to be playing with these tools and to be anticipating what this means for our organizations. I'm Jose Maldonado. I'm head of our product teams, and yeah, I'm expecting to spend a few minutes walking all of you through our platform roadmap, and then through this process to see, how we understand the market, how we see time being spent, how are we taking these broad concepts that Brian was walking us through about trends, about market growth, about opportunities, about AI, and how that's informing and affecting very specifically what we're aiming to do. So hopefully during the next few minutes, you'll get a better understanding of what we're building, why we are building it, and of course what opportunities this all means. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump right in. All right. So of course, at ProcessMaker, we spent a lot time just researching into what are the driving factors behind some of these core capabilities that most of our client organizations are looking for. You know, our CEO mentioned a little bit about the economic uncertainties and the environments, different challenges, and so how that relates to customer behavior. We manifest or see this focused on three key areas. So of course, the first area has to do with trying to be financially effective, financially intelligent about where money is going, how it's being spent, particularly in terms of SaaS applications. We also heard about just the proliferation of so many cloud and SaaS offerings, all claiming for our budget dollars. So we have to be very mindful about how we're establishing these spend patterns. The second key focus area has to do with growth, and this is all about what is the clear path towards the target performance goals where the company needs to be. And finally, when we think about focus areas and we understand these concepts of transformation, what we're really talking about is making sure that users, employees, customers all have increasingly incredible experiences. That's the real transformation. It's transforming the experience that users, employees, customers have with our products, with our brands, with our companies. And so let's talk a little bit about some capabilities of how this manifests more specifically. So the first set of capabilities that we've seen become incredibly relevant is the need to optimize the resilience of the digital business. So this is the ability, to be able to build what analysts are referring to as digital immunity. So again, Brian just walked us about just how prevalent, how pervasive all these digital SaaS solutions are in our business. It is well understood that research suggests that digital teams are responsible for the lion's share of revenue. And so it is imperative to deploy the set of practices and technologies that are designed to mitigate system failures, to improve performance, to deliver improved user experiences, that can drastically reduce downtime, keeping all these systems up and running. So these function in numbers of areas. That starts by being able to just see what's happening transparently throughout the application. We want to know if a software is running, if it's running slow, if we have issues in the underlying infrastructure, if some third-party API is running slow or stop responding. Then we want to enable testing that's AI augmented. It all falls back into that human in the middle that Brian was talking about. We want to enable testing that requires less human intervention. How can we anticipate that? How can we engineer for chaos, which is testing for unpredictable vulnerabilities in a controlled manner, and auto remediation, which is how can systems self-detect these issues, anticipate them, predict them, course correct on the fly, return to normal states. all without human interaction, human staff. And so just continue this process of deploying increasingly resilient features to improve that experience and mitigate risk. So as we see these values of the digital immune systems manifest, there are some examples of actual features and focus areas. So the first one that we see is just increased operational resilience. This has to do with the effect of keeping operations running in the line of challenges or upcoming issues. And airlines are always a great example of this, to be able to in a moment effectively address issues when there are flight delays, when there are weather events, there are cancellations. We all see it every day when something happens somewhere. All the network, the system just kind of reacts and course corrects different plans and layer paths for flights and so on. You don't want to be in a place where a single hub can bring down the entire network. The second key feature or key capacity has to do with resilient feature release. So by this we mean, as we have our digital systems evolve, new features, new capabilities are extended, it's imperative that everything new, plays nice with what is already existing. We can't have systems and the new just break compatibility with what already exists. So we have to find a way to effectively maintain and making sure that everything is absolutely regression tested, using those kind of self and auto testing and engineering issues that we just discussed. And finally, issues and incidents are going to happen, so it's all about automated incident resolution. So when they do happen, we have to have automated ways to maybe spin up additional servers or environments, automatically recreate environments, and reroute requests into these new environments. So we shouldn't have to nudge these systems. We shouldn't have human staff have to proactively react to these and go restart those systems. So instead, we have to think how these capabilities come together in the context of what you're seeing, and that's what ProcessMaker is, building the underlying tools to drive these kinds of features on solutions built on our platform. So the next big capability is to having a reusability structure. So of course we want to be building and streamlining assets that can be then thought as composable pieces for reutilization. We want to be able to have not just templates in our own software, but in the kind of applications that developer builds, and we're seeing that more broadly across different departments, have the tools to reuse components from a consumption perspective, and just automating all the complex infrastructure that's underneath, connections to complex sources. When we think about that cog that Brian was describing between core systems and all the fringe related services, we want to maintain and curate those interaction opportunities in a composable, reusable manner, not thinking about how these interactions happen every time that we're going to use them. And then finally, we notice a big capability is around how the market is organizing around SaaS application clouds and vertical clouds, which aggregate a core set of capabilities centered around dedicated industries. We see it in banking or in higher ed, around some of those core system examples that that Brian was mentioning earlier. And so these are all just capabilities centered around dedicated industries, so as to accelerate transitions of architectures that are built for scale, integration, standardization, which can help turn to drive these elements that we're talking about, reusability, composability, and automation. And then finally, we're also seeing this big push towards larger apps. So when our users start building for a single use case, and develop, as we enable the development of and publishing of these single point use cases, we notice how additional users or the same users on using these applications start to identify new opportunities, and so start to create complementary applications that maybe relate from the same data that's being shared. And so we see this transition from app into platform, from platform into ecosystem. And it's all driven through user needs and user-led development. So a key characteristic is to deploy the right tools so that this development process, user-led development process, can happen naturally, can happen incrementally, and is in control of all the kind of resilience and immunity features that we've discussed earlier. And that's why, bringing all these concepts together, we think that there is space and indeed a need for leveraging all this architecture, but not just on kind of vertical clouds, but on a company-wide, cross-department, automation effort, orchestration. That layer of our orchestration across that our CEO was referring to very accurately. We see that as several companies are building specific, company-wide clouds for departments like sales, human resources, marketing. There's also an additional need for orchestrating, for automating the ability to hide and merge these functions together. So unlocking an integration and driving these AI-driven automation experiences for users in just real-world workflows that touch on several aspects of the business. So that's what we're building with our newest versions of our flagship platform, an end-to-end automation cloud-driven effort that serves as an experience and orchestration hub across otherwise, disparate use cases of business automation. So to be able to develop this kind of cloud-based AI, well, we really think is that there are three core sets of capabilities. So these are the lens through which we are exploring our features and what we should be focusing on from a development perspective. So the first one of these has to do with understanding the intent of the client. So this is understanding what it is that our users are trying to achieve in the first place. And based on that, of course, we should have tools to reactively and proactively understand and anticipate that intent and then feed it into the decision engine. So this is the capability to make a decision, to take action on that intent. This, of course, can be based on available or predicted information and criteria to best solve this request. So it can be, decision that's driven through a BPM workflow, or it's driven through a decision engine, or the decision management play, or a set of business rules, or it's entirely driven through AI. Again, removing that human in the middle, as Brian framed it, or of course identifying what are the opportunities to actually escalate. And finally, the third set of capabilities has to do with adding additional sources for these decision makings. So being able to bringing more and more data, data has been a big driving point of today's conversation. How can we leverage that data that's happening externally? And this, of course, starts short-term with just enabling additional API access to third-party services, but it just grows into enhanced search prompt capabilities, leveraging additional pieces of that hyper automation wheel like RPA engines, and expanding different use cases for unstructured data. So in response to these capabilities over the next few months and years, what we're seeing here is basically what we're planning to build. So this is the capability of understanding that intent, basically having customers communicate across several channels, from text messages to web forms to documents, gathering that document information, processing, and then we want to be from this information, from what's being shared through chats, through forums, or through documents, anticipate, understand what is the intent of what it's trying to do, feed it into different routing and decisioning tools, from BPM engines to decision engines to AI, determining how we can remove the human in the middle or decide to escalate to the right humans in the middle. All this feeding into data lake and analytics, because of course, again, data is the core lifeline, the core blood of all these efforts. So we want to bring these transactions into context of a data lake so that we can be meaningful about this decisioning across structured and unstructured sources. That's why we've got, our source engines for data-based, for author data, for search, unstructured APIs, documents, and PDFs, files, and so on. Just third-party content formats. So what's really key to us is to be able to source and to source from these multiple places in order to just make better decisions and drive these workflows. So if that's kind of the bigger perspective of where we see more practical use cases for what we're trying to drive and how AI plays a part of it, let's talk a little bit then on the specific roadmap items that are going to help us drive to these sets of solutions. We have organized our development effort around product themes. So let's walk through them. So here we have a calendar view. It's organized around themes. The first theme has to do with that integrated IDP variant. So Brian mentioned a few months ago, we've been making very exciting investments in intelligent doc processing, and so we've got a team dedicated just on development what this means. So going forward across all our themes, we're going to be anchoring our development around quarterly releases, starting with spring 2023. That's going to be made available in May. So that's why we're seeing kind of these column-based groups. So the key set of capabilities around IDP are, all about enabling computer vision of documents, having document classification, which is identifying what type of document are we talking about, running that through natural language processing. We also have document management features around that. All designed just eliminate manual text entry, having the capability of enabling the analyses of large document sets. So starting next quarter, next month actually, we're releasing a connector so that we can run through the intelligent doc processing engine files added to our processes and get an OCR extract off of that. And then we're going to be evolving gradually the features that bring them together as a cohesive solution. So first we're investing in bringing OCR capabilities into our processes designer, then classification, then the text extraction, having common identity, so single sign-on between the tools, having shared analytics, and having just more natural language driven features around that. Our second theme, and these are of course are in no particular order, have to do with unified analytics. Again, analytics being key. We appreciate the data heavy focus of workflows and decision making and workflow routing. So we want to enable all these features that have to do with understanding our processes, understanding our users' behavior, understanding the value of the solutions that we're deploying, getting those insights. So it's all about deploying incrementally process analytics, customer analytics, cloud analytics for consumption, product analytics for how these solutions have been used. And it all starts with deploying that data lake. So a separate, dedicated collection of all the data that's generated across all processes, because that becomes kind of the master source against which we then deploy different queries and searches, and from there we feed and build our reports, our dashboard, and we can get proactive and predictive and prescriptive about our analytics, and then our alerts, our triggering, and so on. Our next key topic and trend has to do with engines and connectors. So these relate to the capability of expanding what is available in our solutions built with ProcessMaker. We are starting, this is a very exciting piece for us, with a decision engine. This is the capability, of course, of separating the decision management from the workflow design. So just being able to have dedicated business rules and understand how they're going to inform and be leveraged as composable assets in our applications, meaning we can have a set of rules that are leveraged in multiple separate processes and maintained independently. So that's starting now, and following that in the future, we're going to be working much more closer with RPA integrations and leveraging just robotic bot automations as part of our processes. And then on the connector side, it's all about that reusability layer that we were discussing earlier. So this is starting with process templates. This is a huge feature for us because this is the capability of bundling processes and all their different assets into reusable templates. Key driver of acceleration value, meaning that when you first log into ProcessMaker, you're not going to be thrown into just a blank canvas where everything is possible, just use your imagination kind of thing. But actually, like, here are some active templates with examples that you can run from first minute and understand how different features work together and what the value is. And this also allows, as we release new features, so for instance, now that we have a decision engine, alongside that, now that we have capabilities of managing, I don't know, dependent dropdowns, and we'll see that in a second, alongside that, here comes a template with an example that's actually showing you how to use these features. So the value is unlocked immediately. From there, we're going to work on developing the same reusability concept, but for connectors. And what this basically means is the capability of rolling sub-processes that interact with their systems into tasks that you can drag directly into the modeler. We've already done this with things like DocuLayer or third-party vendors like DocuSign, or collective actions in our platform, like sending an email that collects an email-driven response, like an email approval, or printing out or rendering a PDF, generating a PDF document based off of an HTML template. All these tasks already exist as modeler tasks that you can drive into your process. And with connectors, what we're doing is enabling the capability of having users roll their own and distribute them. And this just blows up our capability of enriching our modeler with drag and drop elements that accelerate, repeatable steps or integration points. So very excited about that. And then when we talk also about connectors, we're talking about just better sync with these iPaaS and environments in marketplaces that we've talked a little bit. So we're starting with MuleSoft and Boomi. We want to be part of their connector interface. And so this means a couple of specifics in terms of being able to leverage them, being able to participate in those and have those kind of connection points directly in our tools. So our connectors team is going to have a blast just going through all these things throughout the year. Let's see. So next are just a general theme for improvements. This is pretty cool because we've always, listening on feedback and understanding how our users are working. And, this is deploying the features that we know are going to make an immediate impact in just how much value you can extract effectively from our solutions. So here, of course, we're talking about specifics like being able to import and export full processes, which we've been talking for a while. Finally, happy to see that seeing the light of day. Autosave is a big thing. It's small but foundational. This means that if you're working on your process or your screen and you just walk away or you lose connection, you don't lose your work. It's kept for you. So you can just focus on, picking up where you left off. Dependent select lists is just making it that much easier to drive, cascading drop downs. So if you have a list, say, of countries, you can easily pick a country and have that filter a secondary list of states or cities. So all of these things can happen today, but we're making it super easy, just drag and drop, fed off of our own collections. And from then on, we'll get into just broader improvements, for instance, around process testing, so that solution designers, as they work with their modeler and make changes, can anticipate how those changes are going to behave. Not just having to kind of run these processes over and over from end to end to anticipate that, but having tools to better gauge a little bit, working our way towards that auto resiliency that we've been discussing a little bit. In-flight process maps, so just visual details of where we are, better controls on process edit and versionings, better controls for multi-form tasks, which we know it's a big thing. There are many ways to solve, so happy to see that we're getting into that. Fixes to our watchers, the capability of us participating in third-party functions, cloud-based functions like Lambda, Google, Azure, deploying data vaults, which is the capability of sourcing additional, as we mentioned, additional sources, and being able to store them not just in kind of JSON collections, but in all sorts of structured and unstructured data repositories directly within ProcessMaker. So very excited to see how we're working on tools just dedicated to improve app development. Same thing for just UX and performance overall. We've been talking a little bit about this, and we'll also have some of our team members share a little bit more on this, but we're talking about just keeping an improving cadence on what our modeler looks like and behave, just continuing the nip and tuck on the modeler, on the screen builder, better controls, better forms, eventually leading to collaborative design features. So we want to have more than one author simultaneously working on either a process or a screen, and be able to work in a more collaborative manner with, all the kind of features that you'd expect for communication and version control and so on. And of course, a lot of work in just being able to have improvements in our performance and the whole infrastructure of how we run scripts and what that means for time to respond and so on. So pretty exciting features across the board. All of this, what we're doing is not just making more things capable, but we're making them more accessible. We want to democratize our app. And this is a big thing because we want to really work towards that low code promise, so that, even if you are a developer and you can unlock some of these feature-rich features that are, so being redundant, that are available to you, just business analysts overall can really become extremely proficient and self-sufficient in building the things that are going to drive their own business value. So super excited about all of these. And then we've got, of course, our dedicated track for AI, which is a big piece and is a big part of what we're talking about. And this is part of a broader kind of research and development effort that we're carrying all along. But we already have some very specific and practical use cases in the works in our labs. Very excited about that, starting with the capability of turning natural language into search queries. So if some of you are familiar with PMQL, this is the query language. So it's a kind of almost expression query-like syntax with which you can interact with the system if you want to understand, get filter a data set. I want to find a specific request, or show me all the processes that meet so-and-so condition. And of course, we're just building a layer so you can have natural language and just ask away or type away in your own words, what is the data set that you're looking for? And then we can transform that to the right queries. So you don't have to become an expert in PMQL. And this transforms greatly just how you interact and you find the data that you're looking for, and you kind of be able to just hone in into what's important to you. From there, then, using these same principles of manipulating and understanding natural language, we're then capable of using just text-based descriptions of forms to turn them into actual screens. So you can just narrate what kind of a form are you looking for, and it can anticipate and predict the fields that would come into that form, or you can just declare them in open text, and we can understand that and turn it into some actual screen fields. And same thing for process models. So just imagine that you're describing what kind of process you're interested in. We can anticipate what kind of the model design is going to look like, and then you can just use that as a starting point to plug in the details. So a lot of very practical applications, all designed again to improve app development time and to reduce just the app building skill requirements in this effort for democratizing as humans become a little less relevant on their specifics, there's just open a need of at least get working on being able to customize and work and create new things with tools such as ProcessMaker. So we're very excited to bringing that along. And then finally, as we go through this roadmap, I want to take a few minutes to talk about ProcessMaker platform and what it's turning out to be, particularly in the eyes of what's already out there. So as we're working on all these amazing things, like we've been talking about amazing things, not just on the broad where the market is going perspective, but on specifics, on practical things that we're bringing to market this quarter, this year, and the next. We have to ask ourselves, well, what does this mean, for our existing batch of customers? What can we do with all current investments that all of you and our customers have been making in highly curated, very specific solutions that are already running, that you've been adjusting and tweaking for years, driving real value from? So particularly for our PM3, PM3 is still one of our most popular versions in use, and certainly want to ensure that those investments are maintained, are preserved, and at the same time, we want to enable these customers to leverage all the amazing deliverables that can unlock the next stage in automation. So we ask ourselves, what if we release a unified version of our platform? One that supported seamlessly everything already built and operating in PM3, while also allowing the immediate development of new processes in whatever latest version we've made available. And have those just running in parallel, unaltered to everything that already exists. So keep what you have, keep it working, no modifications required, while at the same time be able to leverage all these cool things that we're talking about, that we're investing in decision engines and doc processing and AI. So that's what we set out to do, and what we're very happy to announce. Coming this April, our newest offering of our ProcessMaker platform will effectively offer a single solution where everything you have available in PM3, from processes, custom plugins, reports, will continue to work unmodified within an environment that also includes all our latest and greatest versions and features that we've been talking about. We think that this is a great opportunity for existing customers to feel secure in their current production investments and still be able to leverage all this snaz and jazz that we're so excited to get out the door. How we doing here on time? I think we're kind of running at the end of it.
A couple minutes over here, about 5 minutes over.
All right. Well, I'm just gonna, we can stop here. Basically, our PM platform is going to be able to have you within the context of ProcessMaker just see and access your PM3 deployments that you already have, and switch and toggle between the two with no issues. We have a series of webinars specifically for diving deeper into this interaction. So for anyone who's interested in this part in particular, I invite you to sign up for those and stay on top of our communications. So yeah, thank you for your time. Sorry for passing over. Happy to send it back and engage in any QA that derives.